Good day everyone, I am Mary Jundalan. Today my topic is all about the Cavite Mutiny. So what are the controversies and conflicting issues we have in the Cavite Mutiny? And why do historians say that the Cavite Mutiny is one of the most important in our history? And what is the connection between the Cavite Mutiny or the 1872 Cavite Mutiny with the 1896 Philippine Revolution? So let's start with a question. How and why did the Cavite Mutiny start? So in the Cavite Mutiny, there are two conflicting views here, or the Cavite Mutiny has two phases. This is the Filipino perspective and the Spanish perspective. The Filipino version is as different from what actually happened in the Cavite Mutiny, and the Spanish version is also different from what was actually made up in the Cavite Mutiny. Their stories are different. A couple of centuries to the year 1869, when influence of new liberal ideas has spread throughout the world of Spain. Included these liberal ideas would eventually reach the Philippines, most notably in the form of the new Governor General Carlos Maria de la Torre. Governor de la Torre was a liberal. He will pass many such laws, and there are three of note. First, he relaxed media censorship, which allowed many Filipino to have access to liberal literature. Second, he established the Guardia Civil or the Civil Guard in the Philippines. They were like police, but were part of the army. Joining them would grant Filipinos certain privileges, such as tax exemption and exemptions from forced labor. He began the process of circularizing the education system. This meant taking away the power of Spanish priests to control the schools and giving native press control of their own churches. However, this would cause him to be disliked by the Spanish press, but in turn, be well liked by the native press who wanted circularization. This period of liberal reform would soon end in 1871. When Governor de la Torre was replaced by Governor Rafael Esquerdo. While under him, new technologies such as the steamship and the telegraph were introduced to the Philippines. He will be more famous, or rather infamous, for his iron fist type of government. He disliked the liberal reforms made by de la Torre and would work against them. He would argue for the increased censorship of the press, and more importantly, he removed the privileges that the Guardia Civil enjoyed. These changes were unpopular among Filipinos, especially among the Guardia Civil. Things would come to breaking point on January 20, 1872, angered. As having their privileges revoked and their pay reduced, around 200 soldiers and laborers, led by Sergeant Fernando Lamadrid, captured Fort San Felipe in the province of Cavite, killing the Spanish officers inside. The mutineers hoped that the other soldiers would join them, but when they called the nearby infantry company, they refused, and soon attacked the mutineers. Because of this, they stayed inside the fort. When news of rioting reached Manila, the seat of the colonial government, Governor General Esquerdo quickly dispatched men under the command of General Espinar to recapture the force. When they arrived, they saw the mutineers were being kept at bay by the loyalist infantry. The arrival of reinforcements from Manila sealed their fate. The mutiny was soon crushed, and many of them, including Sergeant Lamadrid, were killed. Any survivors were soon arrested. The Cavite Mutiny by its own was not very significant. What would be significant, however, is how the colonial government responded to it. When an official investigation the mutiny was made, the colonial government reported that the mutineers were part of a plot to cause a revolution and overthrew the government. Many prominent Filipinos were accused of being supporters of the plot. Many of the suspects were prominent leaders, lawyers, and influential residents from the Manila and Cavite also, with the advice of them Spanish friars. Governor Esquerdo is scared to emphasize the role of the native press in a quote-unquote revolution, saying that they supported the rebels and were those enemies of Spain. So among the people who were arrested were three native priests, Mariano Gomez, Jose Burgos, and Jacinto Zamora. They were known figures of the secularization movement. Wanted to reduce the friars' powers, so this made them prime targets for the Spanish. In the ensuing trials, the three priests were pointed to as the mastermind behind the Cavite Mutiny. There was very little evidence to support these claims, but they were found guilty in a way, and soon convicted. Out of all of those who were arrested, 70 people were given death sentences. Some of the sentences were later reduced to life in prison or exiled to the more remote islands such as the Marianas or Guam, two to be executed. However, for the three priests, Mariano Gomez, Jose Burgos, and Jacinto Zamora, as well as the soldier Francisco Saldoa, he was the main witness that testified against the three priests and claims that they were behind the mutiny. He was actually promised a pardon in exchange for his testimony, but he will be executed along with the others on February 17, 1872. The priests were both to Bagumbayan filled. They were executed by garrote, a device that tightens an iron collar around the person's neck. After they are killed, the three priests will then be remembered as a Gomburza, owing the first letters of their surname, in the attempt of the colonial government to crush the cold revolution. They made future revolution almost inevitable. The death of Cumberza is seen by many as the start of the Filipino nationalism. Immediately after their trial and execution were seen by many Filipinos as a grave injustice and soon correctly. But the unintended consequences of the crackdown did not end there. Many of those who were exiled to the Marianas and Guam would go on to start the propaganda movement. There, they would publish newspapers and pamphlets that advocated for reforms back in the Philippines. One of the propaganda movement's future member, Dr. Jose Rizal, dedicated his second novel of El Filibusterismo to the martyr press. In referring to them, he wrote in the book, "I have the right to dedicate my work to you as a victim of evil which I undertake to combat."